Hey Tyler, welcome to the 2x eCommerce podcast.
Great to be here, Kunle. Thanks for having me.
Terrific stuff, terrific stuff. Tyler, do you want to give listeners a brief background as to your journey thus far?
Oh, sure. I started in marketing about 10 years ago. Oh, before I was in marketing, actually, I had it in my head, I'm going to be this famous musician. So I was performing pretty regularly. And at some point, I decided, I'm going to make the transition from performing on the stage and trying to make this happen to like a career. And I found a lot of the things that I had learned during performing, like how to run social media, or how to build a website, or how to make a flyer. It translated really nicely into marketing. And so I got my first start at a small like e-commerce brand trying to figure out their social media, and I kind of went from there. I went from doing social media to doing loyalty programs, um, to working in like FinTech as somebody helping to mitigate fraud, and how to do B2B marketing. And ultimately, I realized B2B is kind of my niche. Like I really love doing B2B marketing. Um, and after the pandemic, uh, well, not really after that. As soon as the pandemic started, right, and I was working from home, I got to spend a lot of time with my daughter, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I want to continue doing this. So I started looking for other remote jobs, and I ultimately found this really interesting opportunity at Undigital, um, as their head of marketing, and figuring out how to help them to develop this unboxing experience platform. And it's been pretty amazing here. I love it.
Hmm. Hmm. What's the name of the unboxing platform?
Sure. So our unboxing experience platform and the company share the same name. So it's called Undigital. UN Digital.
Okay. And exactly what do you do there on unboxing experience? I really like the sounds of that. What is the proposition with unboxing, and what you deliver from that perspective?
Sure. So what we do, our unboxing experience platform, and we can get into that in a little bit, is it basically helps people to personalize their unboxing experiences. But a large portion of what we do is we educate different B2B brands about, or sorry, D2C brands about how to apply what we call the unboxing marketing strategy. And basically, that's the strategy that we want them to apply to unboxing experiences. It's how do you turn your unboxing experience into a critical touch point in the customer journey that has performance marketing attached to it. How do you build an unboxing experience that is both memorable and personalized to drive these goal-oriented KPIs? Like how do you make it build more engagement or loyalty or drive reorders or revenue? Um, and that's really what we want people to do, is just look at your unboxing experience and think to yourself, this is a missed opportunity if it doesn't have a call to action inside of it, or if it doesn't have marketing collateral inside of it. How do we build a plan around driving more revenue from this?
Okay, there's a lot to unpick from what you just said. In
Sure.
from my experience as a consumer, and partly as an e-commerce person, there are kind of like three layers to peel in this. There's the outer box experience. So what does it really look like from the carton? So I would know a flimsy and cheap brand just from the outer packaging that arrives at my door. There's a certain quality I expect from certain brands, particularly when it comes to just luxury, and even just higher middle end products. So the boxing is very important for me. The other is the actual packaging of the product that comes in, whether it's a bottle that's come in, the attention to detail there, or whether it's the electronic device or what have you, the actual attention to detail, on there. Um, a great example would be like an Apple device, that experience, from in terms of like just opening up the actual item in the box. Obviously, I know that doesn't necessarily translate across all product types, but there's certain standard you expect. And then the point you just made is the insert, so further communication with the customer. Sometimes I also see like other brands in the inserts. So if I'm buying from one brand, you'd find maybe flyers or inserts of three other similar brands, trying to sell their own products, and then in other times you find just one single insert, which is what you're referring to, from the brand, trying to deliver a call to action or a message or a voucher or what have you. So should we speak to the first layer? In 2024, what are customers expecting when a box arrives at their door, for instance, or a package?
Sure. So when it comes to your unboxing experience, right, the branding of the actual packaging is as diverse as the companies that exist in the market, right? So some people, they've got to do whatever they can to make it cost effective, right? So maybe they're using a slip instead of a box, or maybe they've got the best box that they can afford, or whatever makes economical sense for them. What we focus on in terms of helping people with their unboxing experience is just ensuring that whatever they're delivering the product in is branded appropriately. And that doesn't necessarily mean the branding has to be on the exterior, because some people are pretty wary of putting their brand on the outside of the box or making the box pretty, because they think, this is something that's going to attract porch pirates, and there is validity to that, right? Like that is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But what we encourage people to do is just ensure that even if you can't brand the exterior, that you brand the interior in some way, and whether that's like um, you know doing an actual print on the box, or maybe it's using colored filler, or having a box that's decorated in some way. Whatever you do, just so long as the interior of the experience reflects the brand, that will help you to be more competitive. If you're doing nothing, if you're just shipping it in a plain brown box, I mean, at this point, you're just basically saying, like, our brand is pretty generic and we don't care that much about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. But there's also the Amazon effect, with all Amazon, packages are branded. They're aware of, porch pirates, and they do it. But it's very, very interesting. I've also seen brands that have put a lot of attention to detail on the inside, so they would have another color, an alternate color. It could be completely orange on the flip side, or the top,
Right.
and then the logo is smack bang in the middle, and that just gives you an ease that, okay, I'm being taken care of. So that's super super interesting. Then what about the next layer, which really is the way the product is presented? Sometimes the product is just put in the box, but just that presentation layer. What are you seeing from your customers in terms of good packaging, from that perspective?
Sure. So when we're talking about what's inside the package, and how they're organizing it in terms of cleanliness, right? So we just want to see basically that your product and your package arrive in the best condition possible, and whether that means you're securing it in some kind of mold, like your product sits inside the packaging. I mean, that's really ideal. Or if there's some filler in there that just prevents the product from moving around.
Mm.
We want to make sure that both product and at least the interior of the experience arrives as unharmed as they can. I mean, there's only so much you can do with postal carriers, because sometimes, frankly, I've gotten plenty of boxes that were crushed on the way, and that happens. Um, But you spend so much time developing this product package, and there are a lot of brands out there now that just take this product that they've really just developed for months and months and months, and then they just throw it in a brown box and they call it a day. And so we want to see more people doing more to ensure that the product looks great, and upon opening the package, it's done really well, and that the product looks pristine, essentially. So as long as you're using something to secure the package in transit, you're doing pretty well.
Okay. Makes sense. Now, the reason I'm asking these, or I've asked these two last questions, is really down to maximizing customer lifetime value.
Right.
Is there any data to back high quality, a high quality unboxing experience, a pleasant or a top unboxing experience to retention? That's what a lot of, because with the retention, listeners or D2C operators can then buy into the cost, the extra cost.
So, all right, again, with unboxing marketing, right? So the extra cost is essentially non-existent for most people, because it can be done well in any cost-effective packaging that you need. In terms of what is the comparison between people that are shipping out just this empty husk of a package versus like a really nice unboxing experience, right? 80% of consumers are going to repeat with a brand that creates something special that feels unique when they receive it. They're not looking for just another box on their doorstep. The unboxing experience as a touch point is the most emotional touch point that exists, right? Like, people anticipate it. They get it. They get excited to open it. There's a huge swath of customers out there that are posting videos of themselves online, interacting with this touch point. So if you're not doing anything to optimize it, you could be losing out on like increased satisfaction, retention, and loyalty, UGC, obviously, like I just mentioned, these stronger customer relationships, and then like upwards of a 15% lift in your reorder rate. And you don't have to take my word for it, right? Like, you can just test it. You can run some personalized experiences or some special unboxing experiences to a segment and just measure your reorder rate after that.
Interesting. Have you worked in the CPG space from an unboxing standpoint?
So from an unboxing standpoint, so my role here is basically to help figure out people how to build their strategy. So I don't believe I have.
Okay, because like there's some activation packages, there's some there's some experiences in which the very first order you make is a gift pack. So if you look at the very popular one is like Athletic Greens. So they would give you, I believe, a flask, a mixer, and with your very first order. So it's really nice. It's a welcome pack. It comes with freebies, and then subsequent packages then are the actual supplements. They sell. So I was just wondering if you'd come up with particularly with retention strategies, just the unboxing experience there, whereby there's a welcome pack, and then there's just the actual product that they ship every other month or every month on a regular basis.
Okay, so sorry, I misunderstood the question. So yes, absolutely, we do this. So basically, what we're going to recommend people to do with their unboxing strategy is build out different experiences along the way, right? So you have your first-time customers that come in, and maybe for your first-time customer, you have a very specific welcome message, or like you said, like a freebie or samples that go inside. But you can't send the same package over and over again. What we recommend people doing is, like, you can start out with an order count strategy, right? So it's like, they ordered this time, they ordered the second, third, fourth, and then build special unboxing experiences for each order. So whether they're coming back the first time or the 10th time, every time they come to you, they're getting something unique. And that really does help boost the retention and your reorder rates, just because if people start feeling like it's sort of like I don't know if you're familiar with loot boxes, right? Like every time they open it or something, and they get something new, and it becomes something where it's like, I'm very actually quite excited about this next thing. And as it's building over time, you're just getting better and better results and driving more loyalty with these customers that really want to see the next thing, or they feel like it's special.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Using order counts to figure it out. Okay, let's get into the third layer, which are inserts, which I think is what your company actually excels in, which is on digital. Do you want to speak to the use case with inserts? Why should brands start considering inserts into their packaging or the unboxing experience?
Sure. So the reason that we focus so much on creatives is if you're not putting a call to action inside of this box, it's akin to sending an email with 100% open rate that doesn't have anything in it, right? You're just like sending like, hey, so and so, and nothing, because your customers are excited to receive your product. They're excited to open it up. They're excited to use it. This is one of the most emotional touch points. And if you're a D2C brand, it may be your only touch point, your only physical interaction with the brand or with the customer, and you should capitalize on it. So whether that's putting a handwritten note again to a first-time customer, or building out a really personalized piece of marketing collateral, we think that everybody it should be applying a call to action of some sort to their box. And measuring the results.
Okay. When you talked about creatives, what do you mean by creatives in a box?
Sure. So package inserts can be anything, right? So they can be that note, they can be a flyer, they can be a brochure. Creatives is just another term for those pieces that go inside the box. And your creative can be pretty much anything.
So at the end of the day, we're trying to get more engagement and hopefully more customer lifetime value off the back of any marketing activity we're carrying out. With the inserts, with the inserts you're talking about, what seems to be a good way to start, particularly with listeners who have not considered inserts in their unboxing experience? How would you get started if you were listening to this podcast? You're doing, say, $2.5 million in sales, and you want to get more activation. You want to really engage with your customers that are receiving your packages. What would you do?
So for me personally, I would work to prove out this channel, right? So if I'm just starting out, I've never done anything to build personalized unboxing experiences, I might start with a sample, like pick 1,000 customers, give them the first customized unboxing experience you're going to produce, and maybe it's 1,000 first-time customers. Build out some sort of really special unboxing experience, whether that's just writing a handwritten note or building like a full box with nice branding and everything. Ship it to them, and then figure out what your reorder rate is from there. It just the main thing you need to do with your creatives, what you're putting inside the box, right? You want to put the customer's first name at the top, and you want it to be pretty obvious, because what customers do pretty regularly is they'll open up a box, they'll see some flyers, they'll set them aside. If you are shipping out to somebody and say they open the box and it's like, hey, Sandy at the top, they're like, oh, well, I should look at this. This is something for me. You attach that essentially to whatever marketing message you want to put inside. You put a call to action on it. and just make sure your call to action is something you can measure. Because if you're going on reorder rates, that's awesome. But if you want to go on maybe how much revenue or how much social media engagement you're driving, whatever's really important, just choose your most important KPI and then try to drive that through the box. And people are going to see that as long as there's a call to action and the message is clear, they are going to start driving those actions out of their box. They are going to want to figure out how to build the strategy. So yeah, really, they should just start with a sample group, figure it out, and if they need any help, obviously they can just shoot me a message. Um, I'll help them figure it out, whether they're a client or not.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at like some examples from from your website, and what I'm gathering in terms of the best way to describe this on, especially for people listening to this via audio, is inserts is they look like emails, but emails on cards, emails on paper, because there's no right way to create an email for email creatives. You could go plain text. You could be very visual on it. You could be on brand. You should always be on brand. But they look like you're bringing emails to life. On handwritten notes. Um, is that a right way to assess it from the outside?
That is actually a very fair assessment of how it works. Um, I think most people are familiar with email platforms in marketing at this point, right?
Mhm.
Where you can you go and you can design the email, you can add images to it if you want, and then you can have dynamic fields
Mhm.
or tokens as part of the message. So where it says first name, like their name will pop in,
Mhm.
comma, and then whatever you want after that. Um, with our unboxing experience platform, you can do something very similar with that, um, where you build out the creative, you add whichever fields you want to use as part of your message that'll dynamically populate, um, and then every customer who orders will get a different version of that.
Okay, and then
Um, Go ahead.
and then what happens in real time? Because obviously with an email, it's just electronic. How do my pick and pack staff actually get hold of a card or an insert for that particular order? What are the mechanics there?
Sure. Um, so, with fulfillment, right? So everybody has a different process. For 10 warehouses, there's 14 different ways of doing things. Um, and we have a variety of solutions that sit in the warehouse. And for the pick and pack, right? So if I don't want to get into the weeds too much about it, but basically there's a trigger. So when somebody orders from your website, that data is stored. And then when somebody in the warehouse goes to fulfill that order, that data is called. And wherever they would normally get stuff from, so whether they would print it downline or they print it at a station, the piece just falls right out with it in a matter of seconds. So as they're packing it up, essentially, if they're at a pick and pack station, I'll just use that example. As they're packing it up, they just grab it right off the printer and put it in. So they don't need to move or go anywhere. It just goes. Sometimes like it could be attached to the shipping label.
Okay, makes sense. And then from a content perspective, so what is in the email? You mentioned personalization. How personalized can you get with inserts?
Oh, sure. So with our platform, we can consume pretty much any data that the brand keeps track of, right? So if the brand has the data point and wants to apply it to one of our creatives, they can absolutely do that. And we encourage them to do that because it's great when people attach the first name to a message, but it's so much better when they build something truly relevant to the recipient. So instead of just being like first name, here's this generic flyer, it's like, first name, thank you so much for ordering product. We're happy to have you as a first time customer. If you want to complete the look, here are the remaining items. Um, there's so much opportunity to build relevance with these different personalization fields. And the more relevance that you can provide and the more actually relevant it is to the recipient, the more likely they are to engage with it. If 89% of marketers are seeing ROI on personalization and 80% of consumers appreciate personalization, you've got 60% of consumers who are going to repeat purchase, and less than 1% of people who are doing unboxing marketing. It's like there's a huge, huge opportunity to figure out how to differentiate yourself from competitors and set yourself aside and be like, all right, we're going to be the personalization brand. We're going to be some of the first people that are doing this successfully. Think about it as like, in the early days of personalization for email marketing, customers just weren't used to seeing like, oh, wow, this email has my name on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of silly to think about now because now it's like I get those emails all day long. What we're seeing with unboxing experiences is a lot of that same novelty that consumers are appreciating. So if you add these relevance, if you add any data point that you can that makes sense, they get very, very interested and they engage with it a lot more.
Interesting. And what are the most popular data points you're seeing? I'm seeing a QR code on your inserts, but besides QR codes, which are probably trackable, what are other data points brands are using? And I want to speak to, if you could give me an example from a small D2C versus like a Unilever, that would be really, really interesting.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So on the small D2C side, right, you're going to see first name personalization, and that's pretty much where that's going to be. Because on small D2C, a lot of what we see people do outside of the platform is people will come to us and say, hey, I'm trying this, or I want to build a personalization. And so they are just writing first name at the top, and then maybe they've got a couple of people handwriting some notes. And there's just the same note, and then every time the new order comes in, they just write the first name on the top.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on the small side. On the large side, you're going to see things like first name personalization, obviously, but it's going to include maybe their product information, information about their audience or segment, their loyalty points if there's a loyalty program.
Mm-hmm.
And it could go as far as identifying each segment that you have from like, we've got this loyalty program, or we've got first-time customers, or maybe we've got a group of people that speak Spanish and building out creatives for them. And so localization or anything that can improve the customer's experience at the individual level. So big brands are going very, very far with the personalization.
Interesting. And then what about unique smaller brands? Running say Shopify Plus. What tools or what data points do you have in their arsenal?
So we have a Shopify integration actually. So if you're on Shopify, like getting set up with us is literally just like the click of a button.
Mm-hmm.
Shopify does have a set of fields that come over with the order feed, but we are able to help figure out how to pipe in any other data in your like your CRM or your database, whatever. Like we can help point you in the right direction because we do have Shopify customers who want fields, for instance, that might not come over from Shopify,
Mm-hmm.
and they just send it to us through another gateway.
Okay. And I really like the idea on loyalty. Loyalty program puts in the points you've occurred, or just giving you your tier, your progress, to the next level. I got an email from a brand I patronize, and it was just updating me on my loyalty tier that I just achieved another level, and it was quite delightful getting that message, on there. So I think there's a lot of play with loyalty, with customer loyalty data points.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so with customer loyalty, let's say loyalty program for a minute, right? So we'll use that as an example. You've got these people out there that are just accruing points, and maybe they haven't spent any points ever, or maybe they haven't spent points recently. With personalization in the platform, like instead of sending them, hey, you have this many points, and that is great, right? Like we should send them, hey, you have this many points. You could send them, hey, you have this many points, and then using like their activity from the website, you can pitch recommended products that they could get with that point value, or maybe the exact discount that they could get that with that value and how much those products would cost. So instead of setting just the points, you can create a very hyper personalized offer back to that person to encourage them to actually utilize the points.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's essentially a call to action, based on their status and their newfound status. Okay, all right. Are there any other points? I think one of the points I picked up on really was return labels. What is the impact of return labels on the entire unboxing experience? It's quite a pretty. It's kind of like it creates a chasm between like quality brands and non-quality brands. When you shop with a quality brand, you expect a return label. Sometimes it's digital, which you need to print out. But what are your thoughts there with return labels?
Okay, so this comes down to basically how much do you want your customers to trust you, right? Like, do you want them to look at you and perceive you as a premier or a prestige brand, or do you want to just be another brand that they have to fight with? Because at the end of the day, if they have to fight for even a moment to return something, right, they're just going to dispute that charge and probably not going to revisit you or your brand again. And so you just kind of have to decide for yourself, like, is it more valuable to me to make it easier for the customer, or will this order break the bank? Or if a slew of customers start doing it, is this going to cost us? And it is a cost decision.
It is. It sure is. It is a cost decision, but it's one to think about, really. And I like the fact that you brought in the point about trust, which is the currency really for transacting. Right, Tyler. I could have gone on and on and on, but I think we've covered quite thoroughly, lots of nuance regarding the unboxing experience. So for people who want to find out more, about Undigital, it's undigital.com, which is undigital.com. I will link to it in the show notes. Is your team active on social media? Tyler,
Kunle?
is your team active on social media?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we use LinkedIn all the time. So it's just Undigital at LinkedIn. And then if they want to reach out and have questions, they can obviously shoot me an email to solutions@undigital.com.
Brilliant. Tyler, thank you for coming on the 2x eCommerce podcast. Really appreciate your insights in the unboxing experience. Cheers.
Kunle, thanks for having me.